Hi and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be looking into the question, what are their intentions towards you and their next possible actions? There are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Amethyst, along with this card which says Initiation. Group 2 is the orange Calcite, along with this card which says Rebirth. And group 3 is the Caribbean Calcite, along with this card which says Abundance. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to, I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you would like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of all of these cards and crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. You chose the Amethyst, along with this card which says Initiation. So right away, in terms of intentions, there is a slow-moving energy with this, with the smoke that's kind of wafting out of this lamp here. It feels to be something that is relating to emotions and how this person is wanting to describe them, wanting to reveal these things. There's a sense of what they are intending to convey may be lost in the meaning in some manner. So somebody who is not really well versed in talking about their feelings, or is perhaps deliberately kind of holding back loving words, not wanting to give the wrong impression or sort of lean into anything too quickly. So it's this idea of kind of like gradually flowing towards you, flowing toward more that will be revealed. It's almost like in the words that are spoken, this can give sort of the impression of kind of like a steaming liquid that might be inside of this container, but the lid is upon it. So there is only a hint or suggestion, a lot of innuendos or kind of meaning in between the words that are spoken. That might be your experience with them at this point in time. This could be somebody who's very guarded, very hard to read, a bit closed off in the heart space. And so the intention is to give you almost a signal, a hint at some deeper level of expression that is to come, that they are working their way towards, maybe like hot and steamy feelings that are building within them that they are not yet necessarily prepared to reveal. And yet there is definitely movement and activity in the heart space. So this can really relate to, a newer connection that you have where you haven't yet dived into those deep emotional waters with one another. There's just been these hints or suggestions, and it's almost bringing to mind the idea of like the aroma of things to come. So this person might be leaning into being a little more sweet, paying compliments, but it feels like being very mindful that they don't come across as maybe love bombing, not wanting to come on too strong in this situation, just kind of work their way gradually up to things. This can talk about, initiating those deeper levels of conversation, but still very guarded, very closed off. So this may be sort of a challenge to come out of that comfort zone. It may be that they're intimidated by you, intimidated by these feelings, or are still nursing some wounds or some heartbreak from the past that is causing them to just kind of dance around the topic, to not be very forthright or open with the full nature of what they are truly feeling. And so it's an intention here of giving a little, but it's definitely the intention to hold a lot in reserves for themselves. So this could almost be going to the extreme of making sure that they're filling their own cup and not over giving to this situation, which may result in kind of a lack as far as disclosure up to this point. point in time. If this is somebody from your past that you are watching this reading for, somebody you're in no contact with, this can speak about kind of these little subtle clues or indicators that they intend on presenting to you. Again, not the energy of full disclosure yet, but just sort of a hint or an aroma of things to come. Somebody who's, kind of in the process of wanting to feel out the temperature of the situation with you, sort of dip their toe in these waters and sort of prod or pry just a little bit, sort of test your boundaries and your defenses a bit to see, is it safe to open up to more? Are you receptive to them? A lot that they are holding within, and as kind of not wanting to get rejected, not wanting to get hurt, not wanting to bombard you or overwhelm the situation or to have the door slammed in their face. So it's almost this energy of, or they might be reaching out energetically, kind of like sending you vibes, sending you signals, sending those little innuendos, dropping those little clues and hints, not in the intention of like misleading you, but just trying to sort of gauge your reaction as far as, is it safe to open up these lines of conversation? Are you receptive to that? Are there still feelings? Is it possible to salvage this situation and kind of explore those emotional waters again, or in a deeper way than you had previously? So with that being said, I'm going to get some oracle cards specifically for looking into what are their intentions towards you. Okay, so we have visualize, alignment, divine wisdom, and angels and masters. So with this sword of truth right here, this Ace of Swords energy on this alignment card, with the heart behind it, and also that is within the blade of this sword itself, there are a lot of deep emotions and feelings that this person is holding within. There is a desire to come clean about these things, to be very truthful about that, but it's almost the sense of like progressing very gradually to that, rather than expressing too much too soon. It's almost the intention to be very responsive to how you are responding and reacting to what they're showing. It's like they move forward a little bit. If you respond in kind, if you're reciprocating, it's going to urge them even closer to you. It's a sense of a bit of back and forth. There may be sort of a struggle with freeing themselves from disappointment and heartbreak from the past, a sense of self-restraint in a way from what they want to reveal, the fullness of these feelings, and yet there is an intention toward truth and honesty. A sense of recognition with this idea of divine wisdom, of maybe the limitations within themselves, as far as what they are able to follow through with action, compared to promises that are made. So it's an energy here of not wanting to overpromise and underdeliver, and so they may be holding back out of the notion of, if I just give a little, then it doesn't set the bar very high, and then I'm able to at the minimum meet that, and it almost feels like an intention here to exceed that. So maybe really minimizing, not being very forthright, but really wanting to demonstrate through concrete action, maybe something that's outside of the realm of their ordinary love language, or something that could be kind of a new aspect of a love language than they have used before. This is somebody that was devoting time or gestures, of love and affection with you in the past or with other connections in the past. They may be having the intention of trying a different approach, speaking about these feelings, speaking about what's on their mind, prioritizing communication that could have been a wedge in circumstances before. The idea of divine wisdom, like they've learned from their past in some way, their past mistakes with you or with other connections and relationships, but it's outside of the comfort zone in some way, with this idea of visualize. They don't necessarily have a lot of concrete practice in that capacity. This is all new territory for them. And so it really feels like the intention not to give you the wrong impression, not to kind of say too much too quickly, to allow for an equal give and take, a dialogue and exchange between the two of you, rather than just having, them be sort of the dominant force in this situation, or to, sort of put by the wayside their own level of discomfort with the pace at which things are evolving. That might have been an issue for them in connections in the past or in dealing with you. There may have been sort of this energy of either they were prioritizing too much their own needs and not being very receptive and responsive to the cues and indicators that their partner was giving. This could also be something where there have been connections where they've sort of put their own level of discomfort aside and have just sort of overgiven to situations, backing themselves into a corner, to a state where they're highly triggered and unable to sort of like follow through or feel very comfortable with the pace at which a situation was moving or with what was being revealed, almost like a sense of trying to placate or people please. Kind of giving partners what they think somebody wanted to see, what they thought they wanted to hear, and that being very inauthentic to a certain extent. And so with you in this circumstance, whether it's somebody returning from the past with the intent of like initiating a reconciliation, starting to rebuild, seeing if we can, open this cup of love once again, is there something still viable there? They're wanting to come through with more of this truth and authenticity of what really kind of resonates with them on the emotional level, what their comfort zone is, what their pace is. So it's almost kind of like a tough love energy here, very much honoring of their own personal boundaries, but it may almost be kind of to the extreme of if they hadn't necessarily prioritized their own sort of emotional well-being before, that might be the exclusive focus at this point in time. So kind of going from one end of the spectrum to the other. But with the idea of angels and masters, this is the intention with all these little chakra points lit up here. It's the intention to grow and build. It's not the intention to lead you on unnecessarily. There is this growth and momentum, this like visualization of future potential, of unlocking the doors of potential between the both of you and eventually transcending beyond whatever has been demonstrated at this point or whatever they're planning on delivering first and foremost. And it is with sort of the greater good of both the connection, but also with this awareness of kind of what their soul needs at this point in time. That may or may not align with sort of what your intentions, your plans, your visualizations are for the future of this situation, or what it is you're looking for in your life at this point. It kind of remains to be seen if this is something where you can continue to turn the pages between the two of you, or if it's something where there's kind of like a misalignment in terms of what you're each looking for and what you're wanting. But this feels to be almost an element of sort of radical self-acceptance that this person has been devoted to or has kind of like figured out or gleaned through their past disappointments in love, or even from like a period of separation between the two of you, if it's someone you were dealing with before, that if they don't come back with their own sort of emotional integrity intact, and they don't come back in this energy of sort of prioritizing love of self first, filling their own cup first, and from that place being able to reciprocate with another, then it leads to all sort of complications further down the road, resentment, overgiving, overpromising, and not being able to fully deliver on that, a sense of inauthenticity which builds, or kind of like obligations, that are very kind of unsustainable in the long-term sense. And so this almost feels like somebody that the intention is to be very true to themselves, even at the expense of kind of, if that aligns with sort of what you're thinking and what you're feeling should be the outcome in this situation. It feels to be something that almost they're trying to rewrite their story in some way, as far as how they've been moving through the world in partnerships. So this kind of like fearless authenticity and really putting themselves first, trying to do that from a very loving stance, although it may come across as kind of very ego-based and a little bit like they're withholding at this point, but it feels to be new territory, like they're starting to pick up some new tools, or they have learned some new tools, maybe something that they've been studying or reading, and it's this tactic, this method is applying, it feels like, to multiple areas of their life at this point in time, but with this idea of like Ace of Swords energy and alignment, it's still kind of this work in progress. They're still sort of trying to balance themselves, trying to sort of spread their wings and learn how to navigate in this new territory. And so it may be something that at this point in time, or if it's somebody who's coming back from the past, that might be a little bit wobbly when they first come in. It might be something where, it's almost like self-focused unintentionally, and that might be sort of a place where you're needing to recalibrate with one another. They do feel like they have the intention, good intentions, for growth potential to see something come out of this, rather than just to come in and kind of like mess with your emotions or play with your heart. But it almost feels like it's new territory for them. They're just kind of, they come in sort of this disarray, almost with like really good intentions, very high-minded intentions, but in practicality, it may be very scrambled as far as the method in which they are delivering that or kind of demonstrating that to you. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into what their potential actions are towards you. What might you expect from this person next? Okay, so we have the otter and the cattail. Peace. The goat and the willow. Overcoming obstacles. Raven. And earth dragon. So this idea of the raven can talk about messages from afar, communication via text message, email, phone call, direct message on social media. This can be opening up these lines of communication to start to wade into these emotional waters. But with this otter and the cattail, I'm really drawn specifically to that reference to cattails. They're growing kind of like next to those lakes, next to those swampy areas and marshes. They're kind of absorbing that moisture of the soil, but they're not something that's necessarily fully aquatic. They're not all the way in that emotional water, in that watery sort of energy. So it feels to be something where, again, kind of like with the earth dragon as well, and sort of like hiding out to a certain extent. Like they give something, they open those lines of communication. But even with, the raven itself, it's kind of, it's shadowy in the sense that they're withholding a lot. There's a lot of mystery. This is giving me like the moon energy right here, where there are these obvious kind of like signs and indicators that there's something more that they are wanting to present or convey than what is actually being said or spoken initially. So it's like dipping a toe in these emotional waters, especially if it comes to like reconciliation with somebody. It feels like they step forth just a little bit, but they're still very protective of self, very cautious and guarded as far as, are they going to be rejected? Are they ready to kind of like open this door again, open Pandora's box to something new between the two of you? With this idea of the overcoming obstacles, the goat and the willow, again, this idea with willows and how they're kind of growing next to, adjacent to kind of lakes, rivers, these very kind of like watery and saturated soils, but they are not in the water. And so it feels like something where this person almost, they lead from a very loving place, but they stop short of that full emotional disclosure. Kind of with this idea of willows, though, and those branches that can grow to the point where they're then dipping into the water's surface. It feels like something that there's growth potential here, and it's something that might almost open up or test your patience in a certain manner. That especially if you've been waiting for someone to come back from the past, and they knock on that door, and it's like they're giving a little, but they're stopping short of really diving in deep, trying to kind of like piece their way through whatever difficulties there are, maybe, starting just in the element of kind of like playfulness or friendship between the two of you, but really resisting kind of having some of those more difficult conversations. Or if they lead with sort of like talking about difficulties, it may be sort of a struggle or a little bit, it'll take some time to kind of transcend that and to start to rebuild that spectrum of harmony between the two of you. So it feels like something, again, with these, these intentions of growth oriented energy right here, it feels like they won't necessarily be able to speak or articulate that. I need some time. Please be patient with me. This is uncomfortable for me. For some of you, there may be that level of disclosure, and it might just happen like in one conversation in passing or something that they just kind of mumble out very quickly. It comes forth, very jumbled. They're almost like very nervous or skittish or shy about that. And so there's something where there's almost like you're going to need to read between the lines, the aroma of what's being stated. And to understand that behind everything that they are saying or holding back, there is, with this little Vesica Pisces figure here, geometric figure in the background of the smoke even, there is a desire for greater connection, greater harmony than what you've experienced up to this point in time. Or kind of like the rejoining of one another, moving back into those happier times, if this is somebody that you were dealing with in the past. So it feels like, again, next possible actions, something that comes in from afar. It moves out of this place of just visualization and intention with the earth dragon. It's brought into the material world. This isn't just like telepathic communication. This isn't them popping up into your dreams and having these conversations. This is like somebody who makes a move, a very slight move in your direction on the earthly plane. And so it's almost like long haul energy here. It's something where you're really going to have to like coax or inch your way along with this individual, as they feel to be somebody who will most likely be very sort of like stubborn and almost in the driver's seat as far as the pace at which this is going. They don't feel to be somebody that's in kind of the mood or in the energy to be rushed or to be pushed. They have a very definite agenda, a long-term plan, something with visualize that they have intended. They want to come forth with the truth and with transparency, but it's going to take time to build up to that. It's something that's going to be accomplished through a variety of ways. It's something that in the long term, there is a desire to, dive deeper, emotionally speaking, than you have up to this point in time, but maybe because of what's happened in the past or the nature of this being so outside of their comfort zone, it's like they're taking a leap of faith in a certain manner, trying something new on, new skills, new forms of communication, a new tactic or approach with you or in general, something that is kind of having a ripple effect in a lot of different areas of their life. They're starting to open up more about feelings. This could be somebody who has, joined some kind of community, some kind of support group even. So as they are actively in this process of kind of like learning these new communication styles, these new ways of sort of like dealing with their own emotions, you're kind of on the receiving end then of that. You're a spectator to this person's process in and of themselves. So if that's something, that is kind of in alignment with your timeline, if you're willing to allow this situation to grow very gradually, it doesn't feel like something where they're just going to continue, to skirt around these emotions, but it's something that, there'll be a lot to be desired still. It's not going to be that full revelation of all these deep personal truths. It's something that they're going to need to build up to very gradually. It's going to be a gradual unfolding, a gradual aspect of kind of becoming more comfortable to let you in more deeply. It seems like they'll start addressing like hard topics first, fears first, what went wrong in the situation first and foremost, to kind of like clear the slate between the two of you so that you can then turn the page and start writing a new chapter. So it may come through very almost like business minded, or again, they're coming through in almost like a platonic sense, sort of these are the things that we need to discuss, and until this list of things has been covered, I'm going to continue to kind of remain a little bit sort of distant and guarded until I feel certain that we've gotten the uncomfortable stuff, the difficult stuff out of the way. Then it reaches that point where we can start to open up and dive deeper, emotionally speaking. So I'm going to get some messages from their higher self and see what does this person want to tell you right now. Okay. So we have soulmate. So this can definitely confirm this draw that they feel back towards you, a sense of needing to make amends, wanting to make amends, maybe even resonating with kind of the idea of this being almost like a karmic soulmate connection, where in some manner, whatever has fallen apart in this situation before, if this is someone you were dealing with in the past, and the lessons that they have needed to learn, the wisdom they've had to crystallize through your experiences with one another, it's part of their soul growth and evolution to at least conquer fear, to have collected these new tools of communication, of self-awareness, and to bring forth proof of that in some manner to you. With that being said, it feels like for most of you, this is something where they want more than just closure. There is this desire to overcome the shortcomings of themselves, the difficulties that you'd experienced in the past, with the interest of clearing that slate and being able to move in a new direction forward. Again, with this idea of like the Vesica Pisces here, there is this desire for union of a certain variety, whether that is something that just remains limited to the scope of friendship, or whether this is something that, this can open up to something, maybe trust can be rebuilt and feelings of love can grow once again. That's definitely something that they intend here with all of these hearts on this kind of Ace of Swords, a sword of truth right here. But again, it's this understanding that there's some sort of an amends that needs to be made, some sort of a balancing of the scales, something within themselves that it's needing to evolve, and it feels like they are in the process of doing that and are wanting to simultaneously evolve something with you in real time, so that within themselves and within this situation, more of that frequency of love can be the theme as opposed to fear, which may have been the case in the past. If this is somebody new you're dealing with, then there would be no reason to apologize, no kind of amends that need to be made. This idea of soulmate can definitely tie into that they are drawn towards you with the desire for union, for longevity, for something more than you have at this point in time. But at the same time, they're very triggered, almost like their lesson, their aspect of evolution and growth is addressing that part of themselves that might be a little bit scared to be hurt in love, might still be closed off, kind of emotionally detached or disconnected from some sort of heartbreak they had experienced in their own past. And so this situation, almost the possibility and potential with you, is sort of like that's the prize. They have their eye on the prize, but it's almost it feels almost like the idea of sort of like walking on the moon, like it's these big steps, it's very slow, it's very kind of like cumbersome progression towards you. They're very outside of their element, very much in kind of like alien territory with, opening up to matters of the heart or expressing themselves emotionally in this way, maybe even just because they've been so closed off and kind of like guarded for so long that there's been some sort of breakthrough already. Something has kind of like chipped away at a layer of this armor, but they're not yet initially kind of ready to just burst forth from that place of hiding, from that cave. They're needing to kind of just squiggle out ever so slowly, and kind of like ease their way into this situation, which is where patience really comes in as a factor here. They also say, "I'm so sorry." So if this is somebody that an apology is owed, this can definitely be that confirmation of them wanting to reach out and to make amends. It may be something even where they're trying to, based on the nature of obviously your history with one another, they may not be leading with that element of I'm sorry. They may just kind of come through with pleasantries, some kind of an excuse to talk to you, something to just kind of like get back in the door. And as there is this dialogue between the two of you, that's as it's sort of leaning into more of these deeper emotional topics as they feel very safe and seen and received well in your energy, and you're still talking to them, you're responding to them. That's when they are going to start to kind of like creep out from hiding. They're going to start to sort of dip in like that willow energy here, press themselves deeper and kind of start to wade in those emotional waters. That's when the I'm sorry, that's when the apology, that's when the conversation's almost like, I wish things had been different. If only I knew then when I know now, and maybe like we were too young or I was immature. It's the conversations will start to sort of lead into that. They may even just be describing, kind of filling you in on what's happened in the time that you've been apart, and through that there's the ability to sort of read between the lines of what they are describing to you as their experiences, the lessons that have been learned, what they've done with that, the changes that they have made, to where before that kind of outward expression happens, that it's like, I have feelings for you, I want to see, can we grow, can we evolve at this point? It almost might be something like a list of ultimatums or things you had told them or suggested to them needed to be kind of like worked on or cultivated or, even just evaluated or considered within themselves. They're addressing those points, almost like they had taken note of these things and had created action in a very positive direction. That in and of itself, the best form of apology is changed action. So that feels to be something that this person is really going to prioritize. Like they'll continue to remain sort of like distant or just peeking themselves into this situation until they are very confident in their ability to show you something different from whatever they had presented before. And they also say our story isn't over yet. So that ties in with this idea of the book here on the divine wisdom. This is something where if you've been in separation with one another, the time apart has really served, it feels like both of you very well. You've both done your own kind of like healing and growth to a certain extent. And it's something that this person is now kind of on their own layer of their journey where there is a desire to move back towards you. They've overcome some kind of personal challenges within them to where something that may have felt like a very impossible situation, they're now starting to consider the what ifs. Is this fixable? Is this salvageable? Can we still build something from this? Can we still grow from this? If they'd been very detached and sort of shut off to that emotional body, in the past, this may have been something where the idea of the love you had to give or the feelings that were stirring within them, it may have been very frightening, triggered a lot of this kind of reflex to sort of like run and hide and close themselves off to a certain extent. But it's almost like they've ascended past that to a level that they now have a greater understanding and knowledge of kind of this mechanism within them to run and hide. And with that, there is again this idea of like wanting to clear the slate between the two of you and to rewrite the narrative of what's possible in the future. And they also say, I need time. So that confirms that energy of somebody who's going to be very slow moving. This is like Knight of Pentacles energy, even with that Earth Dragon there. They're going to give, but it's going to be very slow until you sort of get the full truth of their intentions. It's going to be a slow opening, a slow declaration, a slow moving back in your direction even. That feels at this point, they may be sort of, if this is a no contact situation, they're considering that, they have this on their mind. They're in ways kind of like making their way towards you, but it's something that they're not prepared to just dive all into this. So it really is going to be a lesson in patience, it feels like, for both of you, for you kind of to sort of temper your expectations and really adjust to what this person is demonstrating that they're able to give. And for this person, it may almost be a lesson in sort of throwing caution to the wind to a certain extent and really utilizing opportunities that they are given. If you choose to, entertain communication with them, if you choose to let them back in again, it's something that they can't necessarily continue to just move at their molasses pace. If they come towards you in a very dominant energy, like they're going to steer the direction and pace of this situation, at a certain point, they're going to have to relinquish that. They're going to have to adjust their approach to this situation And so that might be something that, through kind of the introductory stages of reconnecting with one another, over time, their rigid stance will soften, and then you will need to be the one that kind of steps into more of that commanding role of like, okay, you've had this opportunity to sort of, test your boundaries, and you've gotten your comfort zone, and that's gone really well. Now it's time to pick up the pace on this. So I'm going to get a little bit of guidance for you about the situation, and I'll get some initials. Okay. We've got the Wood Wife. Trust your inner wisdom. So this is really relevant as far as this idea of like the aroma of what this person is giving to you. That they're going to come forth most likely holding a lot inside, a lot that even with this idea of like feminine energy, wife, receptivity, you're going to be able to sense that guardedness in them. It might be something that's almost very triggering to you, sort of like, what's the catch? What is this person's intention? What are they hiding? But it feels like what they're hiding is this kind of, this profound amount of affection that they have for you, but that they're very frightened to open up to completely, or to jump in too quickly, maybe even just for their own benefit, so they don't get frightened again, so they don't kind of like run off again. This is an energy of wanting to build something into the long term, but going very slowly. So it's really going to be something where, you're going to have to trust yourself as far as how much you allow this person to be kind of the dominant force, the controlling force, the commander of this situation versus, does this really fit and resonate with you? How much time are you willing to give this situation? How patient are you willing to be for somebody that might be just sort of moving at a molasses pace? So really sort of like trusting that, the inner wisdom, even with the idea of sort of like intuition or a spidey sense that might kick off and say, hey, they're hiding something, they're very guarded. It's almost bringing to mind the idea of scratch beneath the surface of that, the idea of like wood, and it's bringing to mind tree rings almost on a tree trunk, that there's that first sort of like visible layer, the first impression that you get, but then there are all these deeper implications than that. So taking those little cues and those indicators, but diving in a little deeper, looking at it from different angles rather than just worst case scenario, they're hiding something, this must be negative, this must be, trickery or duplicity, keeping that as an option, but also sort of entertaining the thought of, well, maybe this is also fear-based. Maybe this is also they're stepping out of their comfort zone, kind of weighing all of those possible options. And from more of like a consensus within yourself, determining with all of these variables, what is known and what is unknown, does this feel good to me, opening up the doors of communication. It may also be something where you're needing to follow their lead and kind of keep some in reserve for yourself. You're opening the lines of communication, but don't necessarily open your heart up to that right away. Kind of hear them out, give them time to speak their truth, to test the waters, to see kind of what's happening, if there's any evolution, if it's just something that feels very surface level. Not everybody who pops back in is going to have the ability to kind of like take this intention and make that into something in the material sense. So for some people it might even be, that's great, you've got the intention, but in practicality you're not demonstrating any change. That might be where your intuition comes in, where you're going to have to be the one to cut this off, to kind of wrap that up full circle. And the idea of even like a karmic soulmate, you're disconnecting from that. You're breaking a pattern for yourself and moving in another direction. Or, again, not just kind of leaping to the first conclusion, but holding some space for possibility within yourself can also be an effective way of kind of breaking free from some sort of cycle of like a linear point of view, that A always means B. Somebody who's guarded or comes across a little bit reserved in their energy, they're always hiding something, going from that. And it's like, well, what are they hiding? Is it always negative, or does it have to just be, kind of like something that might be a very beautiful intention, but there's a lot of fear surrounding it? So really kind of looking within, judging, reading beneath and between the lines of whatever is sort of presented, especially initially, especially like right when they come through or right in those first several conversations, because it feels to be something that they will open up, but it's going to take them some time to get there. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. N, F, N, Q, W, L, U, A, M, L, S, V, E, Z, R, and A. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of readings about subjects other than love and romance, such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the orange calcite, along with this card, which says rebirth. So just to channel very quickly, this is definitely talking about the energy, especially if you're in no contact with somebody, a person who desires reconciliation, some kind of an offer. This little egg here being almost like a pentacle, blue in this throat chakra, words that they are wanting to speak forth to you, an apology that may soon be coming in, kind of like, can we fix this? Can we start again? I still have feelings for you. I haven't forgotten you, whatever that looks like for you. This can also tie into the idea, if it's somebody that you're currently dealing with, or maybe somebody even that there's been a lot of like false starts, like plans between the two of you that fall through at the last minute. So almost like a failure to launch up to this point in time in a connection that they want to keep trying. They don't want to give up on this situation. There's a desire to almost crack this code or to tap into this potential of what they really feel is possible between the two of you. Something by way of like growth energy. They're still very drawn to you, very interested in you, very attracted to you. It's this idea of, can we try again? Can we try and find another place of mutual compromise? Or this idea even sort of like, can we take this to the next level? Can we put an end to whatever our sort of definition of circumstances have been up to this point in time? Maybe it's just been, casual dating, no strings attached. And it's the idea of wrapping up that cycle and the intention of, birthing or creating something more serious, more exclusive between the two of you. If you have been dating very exclusively, this can talk about, ending that cycle and kind of evolving into the next generation or manifestation of what that might look like. So maybe that's moving in together, getting engaged, in some way solidifying more of that commitment with one another. It fills with also this image of the hand right here. This is somebody who has thought about whatever this is that they're wanting to offer to you for quite some time, and it's almost like they're on the brink of revealing something, providing something, having that conversation, making that demonstration, giving that token of affection even for some of you. It is no longer in the realm of like, let me just think about this, or if it is still in that realm of let me think about this, there's a desire to ground that down into material reality, not just wanting to fantasize and think about the what ifs, but really wanting to develop and turn this desire into something that the two of you can touch, you can hold, you can see, you can experience in the here and now, not just in the higher realms, not just in that mental space or that wishful thinking space, but something in a 3D material sense that is concrete in its form. So I'm going to start by looking a little bit deeper into what are their intentions towards you. So we have meditation, authentic truth, balance, and personal power. So this idea of meditation is definitely something they've been thinking about for a while. Love is on the mind. It's this intention to express to you, to make you know, mind, body, and soul, that there are a lot of feelings that they have for you. They are not wanting to lead you on. They're not wanting to, kind of continue to give you any sort of impression that they want to remain friends, if that's the case, and this is evolving into something more than that. If this is a situation where you're at a distance from one another, there's an intention to convey to you that they have thought about you a lot in this separation. You have always been on their mind. There are these reminders. They see this as a higher level connection, and there is an intention to take the steps necessary to reach towards that, to kind of like come out of whatever is unrevealed with sort of the shadowy energy here and bring that out into the light, express in the light of day these feelings, maybe even go public with your relationship status to, proclaim that very proudly, to announce that very boldly, rather than to continue to sort of like keep that inside, keep that secretive. The idea here with authentic truth is, that declaration, that core declaration. I still have feelings for you. I still love you. I care so much about you. I see a future with you. I want to take things to the next level. I want to ask you out. I want us to become exclusive. I want us to move in together. Whatever that conversation looks like for you, it's this absolute declaration. It's no more suggestion, no more innuendo, no more thinking about this. Like, they've thought long and hard, and it's this desire to, with personal power, take action, take control in this situation. Again, we've got these two hands right here, and it's the idea of like joining together of those hands, having this consensus, working together to repair the situation, working together to co-create a future with you, whatever it is that might look like, whatever that next step or layer is. It's wanting to bring this out of the immaterial planes down into material reality, something the two of you can hold and touch. The idea of like holding hands. So for some of you, this could even involve someone popping the question, for example, wanting to put a ring on it, even a promise ring, or just some kind of like a token of affection, even in the form of promises or vows or intentions that are exchanged with one another, that just brings out into the open with this idea of balance, sort of like, this is what I want. Does this fit into, with what you want, with what you're comfortable with what you imagine for the future? There's an energy here of co-creation, reciprocity. The idea of balance can also talk about the intention to deliver some kind of an apology, deliver some kind of a truth, express, bring forth into the open feelings that they have been holding in for quite some time. A sense of wanting to put your mind at ease, any doubts that you may have had, especially if it's that energy of somebody that you may have been trying to connect with, you've got a connection with, but things just other circumstances keep getting in the way. It's just, there's a lot of kind of like broken dates or sort of like missed opportunities or things that kind of at the last minute make plans fall through. There's an interest here in making you aware that they are still very committed to the idea of exploring what can develop between the two of you, that obstacles up to this point in time have not deterred them from continuing forth. They're wanting to see this through to some kind of completion, to continue to, with this yin-yang symbol that's composed of all these little speckles and dots. It's like, to keep trying again, try in, many more ways to reach this place of cohesion with you. They're not going to give up so easily. They're not at the point of being defeated. They are still standing in their personal power, and it's an intention to, fight through any of that chaos or difficulties or, things within or external obstacles that have kind of like complicated matters or led to any sort of distance between the two of you. Maybe even somebody that's been a little bit hesitant or fearful about the nature of their feelings that came on very quickly for them, and they sort of like needed to pull back and think about things. There's a desire to, really take control in this situation and to try and co-create something with you. They don't need any more time to sit and think about this. Sort of like the head and the heart have waged a battle with each other and the heart has won, is that intention of conveying that to you, bringing forth to you truth that is very heart-centered, so that it is unmistakable kind of what their plan is for the future in this situation, which then opens the door to, does this fit in with your desires? What do you feel? What do we need to do together to co-create something here that is the next manifestation or experience of our story with one another? So I'm going to get into what their potential actions are towards you next. Okay, so we have the antelope and wheat, nourishment. The rooster and sunflower, communication. Air dragon. And otter. So right away, this otter is really bringing to mind the idea of otters in the wild, otters in the ocean that will hold hands while they are sleeping so that they don't drift apart from one another. And it's tying in very well with these imageries of the two hands, even kind of like an opposites attract situation, that despite kind of the obstacles you may face, despite, entering into new terrain as far as like a sea of emotions, that there is a desire to commit with you, to hold on to, this feeling that they have. If it's been kind of a rocky start, they're wanting to hold fast to this. They're not ready to let go of this or to give up yet. If it's somebody that you're in separation from, it's again this idea of like they still have been holding a lot of love for you, and there's a desire to bring that forth, to kind of like shake hands and make up, or kiss and make up, or whatever that looks like for you. That they still hold you in a very precious place within themselves. And if they had been very fearful or uncertain before, this can also really speak to some kind of declaration, or really like a demonstration, like a tangible physical thing that proves and reveals, is an action that accompanies these words. Two references here to communication, literally here, communication, and also the rooster. Birds are those kind of harbingers of messages and words. And then we've got the air dragon, that kind of like thought energy, spoken energy. So it's kind of like, without a doubt, they've weighed in. The head and the heart are definitely in sync. They're in this congruent, balanced place. That this is a situation worth resurrecting. This is a situation worth fighting for. This is a situation that they are wanting to take to the next level. So almost with both of these references to, conversations, it's like opening up that dialogue for a heart-to-heart discussion with one another, stepping into some new terrain, new territory that you have not explored yet, the types of things that you have not talked about yet. This idea here with the antelope and this very fast moving energy. Also with this air dragon, it's the idea of like swooping in, and with this rooster kind of crowing at daybreak. It's, they're not going to wait any longer. They don't need to wait for more clarity. It's kind of like they're looking for a window of opportunity. They may already be charging in at this point in time. Communication may be very imminent for you. The sunflowers, it speaks of like sun energy and joy, and wanting to come out of any kind of like lunar thought-based energy, shadowy energy, very contemplative and internal energy, or even like silence between the two of you, and wanting to bring out into the light of day their interest and intent in moving things to the next level, and quickly, not kind of beating around the bush with this, but sort of like, let's create a plan of action. Let's take action steps now to get the ball rolling in the direction of change in a very positive way in this situation. The idea of wheat is also giving me kind of the Empress energy vibe. So again, wanting to nourish this connection, tap into whatever seeds of potential have been unexplored up to this point in time, or that still exist and may have gone dormant if this is somebody you're in no contact with. An interest in seeing, is this still viable? Can we still grow in this situation? Can we still rebirth this idea of even kind of a counterpart energy with sort of like Emperor to the Empress and the yin yang here? So this can definitely be like a twin flame or a soulmate connection, where if they've needed time to sort of like think, they've discovered the grass isn't greener on the other side, they're not better off without you than they were with you, as overwhelming and kind of like big love sort of energy as they have felt here that may have been very overwhelming. They needed to kind of take a step back and introspect. It's a lot of signs that they have gotten. It's certainty that has really come from within, that this is a situation of value. This is a situation that is precious and worth investing in, to not hesitate any longer, but to move very rapidly in the direction of, here's my personal truth, here's my declaration, here's my heart out revealed in front of you. Do you want it? Do you want me? Can we move beyond this? Can we evolve beyond this? Can we pick up these pieces and sort of repair what has happened? So for a lot of you, this is again like very fast incoming communication. The idea of sort of like the rooster here, it may be very startling and sudden how this person appears, the way in which they reach out to you. For some of you, this can be somebody like turning up on your doorstep, and you go and you answer the knock at your door and it's them, maybe with flowers in hand, or just ready to kind of like divulge everything, to speak everything. They're not wanting to keep anything in the dark anymore. They're not wanting, this isn't someone that wants to sort of like tiptoe in and just kind of like gradually allude to things and sort of take their time. It's like they've taken all the time that they need. There's a sense of certainty here, and it's a growth energy. Like, let's get this started. Let's work to becoming that source of joy for one another again. That whatever even if this is something that it's not separation between the two of you, it's something where it's somebody who wants to evolve the situation very quickly to the next level. They've experienced enough up to this point in whatever that dynamic has looked like. Their mind is made up. Their heart is very determined that forward momentum is the best course of action in this circumstance. So I'm going to get some messages from their higher self now and see, what does this person want to tell you? Okay, and they say friends or family disapprove of this connection. So that might have been an obstacle before that has either led to hesitation, they're needing to think about things, more than even the idea of like friends or family disapproving. It could even be somebody that has maybe children from another relationship, maybe you do, maybe it's a sense of like opposites attract with these kind of two different hands here, and it could be like a cultural difference, an age difference, a religious difference, just anything, kind of like background, what you do for a living, lifestyle, who you are as individuals, any of these things. It might be sort of like an odd couple kind of energy, or it's something that to become very public with this romance, kind of like, this is who I choose, this is who I'm attracted to, this is who I love. This might have been something that there was almost like a fear of what other people would think. How is this going to really fit in? How are other people, especially if like kids are involved in this situation, is needing to take some kind of time to really evaluate things, that it's more than just their own kind of emotional interests that are a factor in this for some of you, but that they have taken that time to evaluate and to say, this feels like a safe situation. My emotional happiness, my emotional contentment, it allows me to show up as a better parent for my children, or if you're the one that has kids, it may have been something where they were a little bit hesitant, like, I don't know if I want to get involved with someone with kids. I don't want to be a disruptive force or factor in that family dynamic or situation. Maybe it's both of you with kids, trying to blend families. Again, this idea of like, how is this going to work? Wanting to avoid any kind of like chaos or drama or like growing pains or an adjustment period, but they've reached some kind of precipice where obstacles or things that stand in the way, those no longer hold as much weight as the fact that they love you, period, unquestionably does. That is what is kind of the catalyst in this situation that is pushing them to, again, kind of like co-create with you, come up with some sort of a balanced solution to how can we make this work, despite the fears, despite the obstacles or blocks, literal or theoretical. It's a desire for let's try to move through this. Let's try to make our way through. Let's try to push our way through all of this. And, together, hand in hand, we can overcome whatever challenges may surface. And they also say, I am so sorry. So this card came up in group 1. If you felt drawn to watch that group, there could be additional messages there for you. The Otter card from a different deck also came up in that group, so that could be another significant sign as kind of a link between these two. It came up in a very different context, and this energy is very different from where group 1's person was really sitting at. So this can even be sort of, maybe you resonate more with group 1, and this could be sort of that indication as on the other side of that, this is sort of what that kind of leads into, this sort of pace, the velocity of this, because it's a very determined energy. It's very fast moving energy. And it's the idea of kind of really getting to the heart of the matter. Like, I'm sorry I took so long to decide. I'm sorry I left you waiting. I'm sorry I left you wondering. I'm sorry I prioritized like fears of what other people would think, or maybe it is some sort of like meddlesome ex, meddlesome family member or friends who, kind of the idea of like misery loves company, even people who didn't necessarily disapprove of the connection. There was nothing wrong with you. The two of you look really great together. They could have just been very sort of envious of the glow that this person had when they would talk about you, when they were around you, and sort of reflecting on their own life, and sort of the lack of that. There could have been subversive sort of energies to try and pull this person out of that space of misery so that these other people could almost like feel better about themselves, or maybe they were controlling dynamics before, and sort of the liberation and the independence through kind of the wings of love that were given to this person in this circumstance. It benefited these other individuals to sort of try to interfere or not be supportive of this connection, because in some way to endorse the connection, or if the connection were to continue, then they'd lose that grip, they'd lose that control. With that reference even to kind of like the Empress, it's bringing to mind the idea of like a controlling mother figure, and that could have been something that, just sort of little whispers in this person's ear, or just, encouraging them to kind of like pull away, not invest in this, for some like a mother figure who would have been very fearful of not, again, having that degree of influence or control, fearing not being kind of like number one in their child's eyes, that kind of a thing. And it's the idea here, if that's the case, that this person has kind of recognized in a way some of maybe those more toxic patterns, relationships and people that they were dealing with, and that there's been some kind of distance or closure, or just in this process of evaluating, it's sort of like, I don't care what those people think. They have their own agenda, they have their own kind of darkness that they're dealing with, and it's somebody who's really prioritizing their own well-being at this point moving forward. If this is something though where it's like a newer connection or a current connection, there's nothing they would need to apologize for. It's almost the idea of like, I'm sorry I took so long to take things to the next level, because I've loved you for a long time, or I've felt very intensely about you for a long time. I've known you were the one for a very long time. And even if it's moved at a very organic pace, this is definitely a sense of someone who like love at first sight, or they felt very intensely about you. They may have needed that time to sort of like think and meditate on the situation. And so there's this energy of, I should have done this a lot sooner, whatever that conversation is. They also say you are always on my mind. So that confirms that energy of communication, that air dragon. And meditate. They have thought long and hard about whatever this is they are wanting to bring forth to you. It feels to be something that's where this determination comes in. If there had been fear or hesitation up to this point in time, it's almost they've weighed all of these options. They've had these kind of internal dialogues within themselves. They've really considered, if I don't act to kind of course correct, or if I just give up at this point in time, what's that going to look like? Is my life going to feel as full with sort of the end of this connection, or just sort of sitting and thinking about the what ifs forever, you know, and it's something where they have determined that the best course of action is to try and create the movement of rebirth in this situation with you. Something that they may have been kind of scripting what they want to say, planning that approach, planning that return. Also, a lot of telepathy that might be going on in this circumstance, or even this person kind of visiting you in the dream space as kind of a prelude to what they want to speak in the material world. And we also have soulmate. So this card also came up in group 1. So another confirmation there, 3 confirmations that for some of you that there may be additional bits of information, or it can kind of set the stage if you feel that you're in this energy right now. You may have just come out of the group 1 energy, which was a little molasses is the best way to describe that without giving away too much of what came through there. You know, but this is the idea of like with the yin yang, and this person really feels like you're the one. This is a connection that is worth fighting for. It's worth exploring. It's worth trying again, or seeing, can we start over? You know, I don't want to lose you. I don't want any more time to go by without you. A sense of kind of like joining hands, coming into a greater and closer partnership with one another. So I'm going to get some guidance from Spirit, and then I will get some initials for you. Okay, and we have the storyteller. Stories are medicine, strengthening and renewing. So that idea of renewing really ties into the energy of rebirth here. So there's definite reconciliation that is a great possibility between you and somebody that you've been in no contact with. The idea of storytelling is they're wanting to rewrite the narrative between the two of you, work toward a different future, clear up you know, the confusion, the untruths, the fear-based patterns of the past, so that the two of you can co-create and turn the page into something new, something reimagined. You know, this is the idea as well, if it's like a current connection, that they feel very nurtured, very safe, very fulfilled in your presence. And it's this idea of moving out of having a story of each of you individually and wanting to really work to the story of us, the story of we. You know, so this can be making more of a solid connection, taking things to the next level, or opening those lines of discussion and, you know, creating a new narrative about moving into deeper and more permanent sense of commitment with one another. You know, so with this is kind of the guidance of use the wisdom of the past, your experiences in other partnerships, or your experience in dealing with this person. But it's kind of this nudge to be open to the possibility that the past need not dictate the future in this circumstance, that you have the power in your hands to course correct at any time. You know, to really just communication is a big factor here, and that will be the liberating force between the two of you. If it's someone coming back from the past, you know, be open to discussing things and to see, is there compromise? Can you each give each other what you need and want at this point in time? And if so, you know, really kind of like open your mind to the possibility of writing a new future for yourselves outside of what has been the case up to this point in time. If this is somebody new that you're dealing with, again, it's this idea of, you know, really being open to communicate. It feels like this person is going to be the one to initiate that communication. They're going to take that action forward. And so when they kind of set that tone for the heart-to-heart discussion, it really is the guidance here to be very candid in that. Don't be afraid. Don't hold back. Like, you know, follow their lead in this circumstance. And, you know, even if it talks about sort of like, you know, fears or things that you're very uncomfortable with, you know, things that you want and desire, not watering that down, but really being very truthful in that, you know, and using your imagination as far as whatever the blocks and obstacles and difficulties are that you experience now or have up to this point in time. It's an energy of very creatively coming up with a new narrative for yourselves, a different approach, a different plan, a different way of kind of trying to make this work. And it's something that there's a lot of potential here for legacy, for longevity, and the power is really in both of your hands to be kind of like the co-authors of what your story will look like from this point going forward. So I'm going to get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we've got V, O, A, P L F L S W Q N Y M W P R and D. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. Format over there consists of readings about subjects other than love and romance, such as spirituality, wellness, ascension, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the Caribbean Calcite, along with this card, which says abundance. So to start with some channeling with this card here, with this kind of broken strand of pearls, this is bringing to mind the idea of a situation where there's been a lot of broken promises, a lot of lessons in this situation, maybe a lot of back and forth, hot and cold with this person, somebody that you've been dealing with in the long term, maybe even where if you've been in separation from one another, you're kind of like feeling their energy come in, you get your hopes up, only to have no delivery in a physical sense about that. A situation that has been very educational for you, as far as aspects within yourself that you are needing to work on. Maybe this is something that has mirrored some wounding within you, a little bit of maybe codependency. It feels like something that may have almost brought up a lot of the ghosts of the past in terms of sort of a repeating series of themes or lessons that you've needed to learn in love and romance that have all been kind of like rolled into this situation. Something that really opens the door to healing on a lot of levels in terms of breaking through patterns, but also needing to confront some of those difficulties, a sense of allowing you to kind of cultivate a deeper appreciation for what has not worked in love, where you've been in love in terms of, mistakes of the past, so that you're able to more deeply appreciate kind of what you want moving forward. This could also be a circumstance where there have been promises that have not been delivered upon, or something up to this point where it's almost been somebody who has overpromised and underdelivered. There could also be this energy of kind of like opposites attract, or somebody who they put out sort of like one public image or persona, or you had a particular impression about them from the start of dealing with them, and as you got to know them more, it was like another face of this person was revealed. A lot of wounding that they hold within that, kind of like it may have been an obstacle in this situation in the past, or it may have even been something that as you learned more about kind of their personal history, this is something that whatever way you judged them initially, you're almost maybe having a little more compassion for this person as you see kind of a hard shell or exterior that they've needed to develop, maybe kind of even a guardedness in the heart space, a hesitation to love and to be loved, that it really stems from, a lot of disappointment within that they have not healed. And so a situation of somebody who could, again, be very like emotionally detached or distant. The idea of abundance can really speak about a lack mentality. something where there could be a lot of mirroring in this situation. The two of you really highlighting for one another sort of those areas and aspects of deficit within each of you that need to be worked on, that need to be kind of crystallized into this place of wisdom through self-awareness, so that you are able to turn the page and move forward out of this lack mentality, to sort of like rewrite the ideas of love and partnership, any kind of pessimism or wounding that you've been holding on to consciously or unconsciously from previous situations, to be able to move forth into the expectation of different kinds of experiences going forth. Not kind of just thinking of the worst in terms of partnership, but really moving into a season of expecting the best. So I'm gonna get into what their intentions are towards you. Okay, we have create space, focus, angels and masters, and love. So my wind chimes outside just started clinging very lightly, very gently when I was addressing this love card right here. So that feels to be a confirmation of, like, first and foremost, they come in peace. They come with the intention of trying to love you as deeply as they can. However, with the color here just being sort of this thin border amongst all of this darkness, it is really reflective again of somebody who may have been very damaged by love in the past, somebody who is trying to rewrite the narrative or knows that that needs to happen, kind of the way in which they move through love and partnership, but they may be very clueless or sort of in the dark about how to do that. There's a desire for something more and yet a lack of presentability or experience about if they're doing this right, what direction to turn in. There's a sense of they're very familiar with kind of what love is not, and there is an intention to show you a different side of themselves or to co-create with you so that the two of you can discover a different face of love, more of what love is, despite all of that information or education up to this point in time to the contrary of that. The idea of angels and masters also speaks. This card also came out in group 1, by the way, so if you felt drawn to watch that group, there could be additional messages there for you as well. This is that idea of wanting to evolve with you through this connection, wanting to show you a different part of themselves than they have up to this point in time. If this is somebody that's been very inconsistent, there is this intention to come into some sort of alignment and agreement with you, show you more of an upright version of themselves, but it feels to be contingent on like a personal transformation, that at this point in time they may only be capable of just giving you sort of these vague hints or bits or glimmers of a different part of themselves. They're still wrestling with a lot of shadow, and so it feels like something that's almost a lofty goal. This is kind of like intention on the far horizon, but in terms of presentability, it's something that they're just kind of, they're on the outskirts of that. The idea of focus, again, with this big kind of like heart here, it's this intention to demonstrate to you that they have an interest in being taught a different way to love. It doesn't feel that they are in a position to instruct or to, help to prove to you another way that love can be, but it's almost like their focus, their attention is on you. It's this intention of almost like, teach me how to be more like you. This could even be something where any kind of boundaries or barriers that you've set with this person, the idea of like create space, they may be almost unconsciously sort of like triggering you or deliberately kind of just revealing this shadowy part of themselves with the intention of like, teach me tough love, teach me through boundaries, show me what it means to be very like loving of self first and foremost, so that I can emulate that or mimic that in some way, so that I can start to like heal these wounds within, so that I can come to greater focus and understanding of a different way of being and doing and moving through the world. And from that place, eventually further on the horizon, there's this desire for reciprocity, but they feel like somebody who is at least aware enough, or they've been stuck in this pattern for long enough, or it's been kind of a reoccurring theme for them in other partnerships of the same sort of difficulties you've faced with one another. Up to this point, you're not the first person that they've had this kind of experience with, or it's been a very similar story with. So this can apply to somebody you're in no contact with, or even somebody that you're dealing with currently that's very kind of like emotionally guarded. They give a little and then they pull back a lot. It's something where they, again, may kind of like get your hopes up. You feel the chemistry, you feel this electricity, things heating up between you, and then it's like this person gets spooked, or, all of a sudden then you talk to them the next day and it's like a totally different story. They're triggering you. They're very closed off. They're coming forth in a very sort of brisk and abrupt kind of energy, to where it's like night and day, enough that there's almost this pattern that has been recognized there. You've honed in on that. You've kind of identified that within this person. And it feels like it's almost their intention is to show you all sides of themselves, but what they feel predominantly is the predominant part of their energy, and what they feel mostly inside is this sense of kind of like void in the heart space. It's maybe somebody who deals with depression, has a lot of personal darkness, some kind of like dark attachment to them, maybe through their environment, through things that they are involved in, through their personal history, some kind of like pessimism or despair. It feels like surrounding love in all forms. This may have been, things from their upbringing, experiences with romance, friendships, the way they feel in the world, even maybe very alienated, very misunderstood, and it's something that it's caused them to kind of like put a wall up. It feels like they light up when they are with you or when they're around you, but it's not enough to sustain them when they're kind of like on their own in this place of space. When they go home at the end of the night, or the conversation ends, or if this is something where it's a period of separation, it's almost like in the distance they're not able to self-sustain that. So they're almost kind of like feeding on your light, sort of like returning and trying to like call that back in, but then at a certain point, when they kind of elevate beyond this sort of like lower density vibration, it becomes very uncomfortable to them. This is somebody who's very much attached. They identify with that personal darkness within. It's part of how they define themselves. And you represent this otherness, this ascension energy. They may consider themselves to be kind of like a lost soul, a broken person. They may resonate with that kind of devil energy, that low vibration, and you represent that other polarity, kind of this angelic energy, this very high vibrational energy, this very loving energy, and there's a yearning for that, and at the same time this sense of like they're not worthy of that, or they don't have the capacity to reciprocate that in kind. So it's an intention of kind of giving you the harsh reality of kind of like the fullness of who they are, what they're working with right now, which is kind of this void within. And it's this sense of almost it doesn't feel like this is someone who would be able to openly express that, but it's almost like their intention is kind of showing you the ugly parts of themselves in the hopes that it will be enough to kickstart or activate sort of your self-loving mechanism, and then you can teach them what that means to love oneself in the form of healthy barriers, in the form of creating that space, in the form of rejection even, and kind of in this energy of what they're able to observe. It's sort of like taking notes from that. It'll be a cue or an indicator of something different than the cycle that they've been kind of wrapping themselves around. They don't desire this to be kind of the forever sort of story. There is an intention of rising beyond this, but in this present state that they are at, it's almost like they don't have much to give except for these experiences that are kind of like pearls of wisdom is what crystallizes out of that. It's this shell. It's feeling very out of place. That the idea of love and partnership, it's very out of their element. They don't feel worthy, or that they belong in that space. So it's kind of a dark energy, and it's not meant to be anything that they're wanting to really bring you down, but it's an intention to show you kind of the face that they wear most often. That, they can put on that happy face, they can raise that vibration, mimic your light for a certain period of time, but overwhelmingly behind closed doors, they feel like there's somebody who's in very dark energy presently. So I'm going to look into what their potential actions are towards you. Okay, so we have the quail and gooseberry, anticipation. The coyote and datura, deceit. Cow and eagle. So with this idea of the quail, and it brings to mind kind of scurrying on the forest floor, not really taking flight very readily, an energy of being very frightened and kind of like going into hiding, pulling into this shell in a certain manner. It's tying in and looping in with this energy of deceit and the coyote, kind of this trickster energy, almost with what their next actions are towards you is some kind of a demonstration or a continued demonstration that they very much are operating in a lower frequency and in a fear-based energy. And it might be something where it almost causes you to wonder if your mind is playing tricks on you. Are they gaslighting you? The idea with coyote and deceit, they may possibly be gaslighting you, dog whistling you. You could be dealing with somebody who is a narcissist, who is embodying a lot of narcissistic tendencies at this point in time. Maybe this has been kind of a coping mechanism. It's a shell that they have needed to develop around themselves to just kind of deal with this deep personal darkness. It might be something that, what is demonstrated at this point in time could be, this revelation of sort of like the other side of the coin from the pleasantries you've been dealing with. And it becomes very apparent sort of like what that predominant energy is in them at this point in time. The idea with this cow here is kind of all of this overgrowth, and it's really bringing to mind something that they provide to you that almost demonstrates that they're holding on to a lot. There's a lot that has just kind of like festered and been allowed to tangle within them, within their emotional bodies. This demonstration could really just be sort of a fluctuation, a hot and cold, where you're not really sure what to make out of this. It's not a very like smooth and receptive energy, but it's something that it almost reveals that they got a lot of work to do on themselves to untangle some of these knots before they are able to provide something to you by way of like higher level communication. The idea with this eagle here, it's very like bird of prey kind of energy. So it might be something where they're very harsh or brisk with their words, something where they're very confrontational, something where, they're almost very defensive in a way as well, that it's enough of a glimmer or a glimpse to let you know that, they're not necessarily ready for compromise. They're not necessarily ready to let go of whatever this kind of like darkness or this tangle is, or again, that it's almost feels like they're doing something deliberately. With this in mind, perhaps after having watched this reading, when whatever this is, kind of like they come forth, maybe they come out with some sort of communication, somebody reaching out for the first time in a while, perhaps, that you've been in no contact with, or somebody that you're dealing with right now at this point. There's some kind of a line of communication, something that comes through that gives you this thought, this hope, this possibility. Okay, maybe they're ready to work this out. Maybe they've grown. Maybe they've evolved. Maybe they're, ready to take this to the next level, or to sort of take down this wall or this guard or this shell that they have around themselves. But it's almost like as quickly as they come out from hiding, they scurry back in. It may be within the context of like one conversation. It doesn't feel to be anything where they're stringing you along for a period of time. It's sort of like this all-encompassing loop in one interaction that gives you this wider perspective of kind of ways in which they're really running from themselves, ways in which it may, kind of with the idea of gaslighting, dog whistling, love bombing, all of that. It could all be wrapped into one, where they're love bombing you and they're gaslighting you. They can't, that seamlessness between these things, it all becomes wrapped into one, to where this might be sort of your cue or your hint that it's time to leave this situation, to rise beyond this, to set your sights elsewhere, for you to be that bird of prey, and be that very self-loving energy, and just say, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going down this road. We're not continuing along this path. That might be this kind of cue or this demonstration to you of sort of where they're at, again, with the kind of these horns on the cow, very like defensive energy, a very guarded energy, a very easily triggered energy. This person may overreact to something, for example, and it's what's necessary for you to kind of like set your sights elsewhere. This also, though, feels to loop in with this idea that on some level, for some consciously, for a lot of these people unconsciously, you taking flight was exactly what they wanted to happen, so that they could kind of even just energetically follow, take note of this, sort of analyze the details of that occurrence after the fact, because in some way it holds some kind of a clue, or it's a cipher to this puzzle within themselves, this tangle within. How do I come out of this personal darkness? How do I learn to manage this better? As much as they've identified, as much as they kind of like wear this as a badge of honor, like a coat of arms, this is who they are, this is their personality. They may be very deeply ingrained and entrenched in this. There is kind of with this one little eye peeking through, there is a desire for something else. There is a part of them that knows that this doesn't feel good, that, this is something that is kind of like stems from wounding. It's a way of living. It's a pattern that kind of yields the same results time and again. In some way, they have identified you as somebody who could potentially help them out of this situation, but they don't feel to have the wherewithal to come right out and say, can you help me with this? So it's almost like they are going into this process of sort of, creating this kind of waterfall effect, this loop and this cycle, just to sort of see like, well, what are you going to do? And then how can I mimic that within myself? How can I enact these same kind of tactics or behaviors to try and close out some things within myself that don't necessarily feel good? How can I look to you at that as that example of how to love oneself, so that I can then maybe try to implement that for myself in small ways to create change? And it feels like something that, kind of in this immediate energy, that this person is still sitting in a lot of darkness. They may be going through a lot of turmoil. There may be a lot of kind of chaos around them at this point in time, or the walls just really closing in a certain degree. Rather than kind of abundance, it's a lot of lack. It's a lot of kind of like, all that glitters isn't gold. Any sort of confident, or very sort of like self-assured energy that they're putting out at this point in time, it's just a mask for some kind of like deep insecurity, a softness, a vulnerability that they feel within. They feel very triggered at this point in time, very triggered maybe by the light that you hold within. It triggers their darkness. There's a yearning to emulate that light, but there's still a lot that they're needing to work through within themselves to be able to kind of rise to that level to meet you. So at least as far as immediate actions, it feels to be something that might be kind of negative. It might be kind of narcissistically based, or it's just, it really reveals a lot as far as, without judgment, kind of what this person's dealing with inside. It opens up a new kind of line as far as what you need to do moving forward, kind of where they're at. And then that can be something that helps to shift your gauge of what you can expect, or what you should be, continuing to invest in, or to, clear space from with this person for the time being, or maybe, for the long term. So I'm going to get some messages from their higher self and see what does this person want you to know right now. Okay. And they say, I need time. So that really confirms this idea of some kind of tangle that they are in at this point in time, some sort of existential crisis. It feels that at the heart of it, at the core, this is not a bad person. They may just be in a really bad energy. Things have happened to them and they've kind of chosen the dark side in this, or maybe have had no choice but to sort of retreat within themselves. This feels like somebody that's very much like in a defensive energy at this point in time. It's almost the idea of like a wounded animal lashing out. And it's something where they are recognizing from their higher self, they're admitting that they are not capable of kind of giving in a loving and reciprocal manner to this connection at this point in time. This is the energy of never say never, though. This doesn't feel like somebody who is beyond, the possibility of kind of salvaging themselves. It's going to take a lot of work to kind of comb out all these tangles and sort of trim all that away. It's going to take conscious and consistent effort, divine intervention, even with like angels and masters in the universe, tower moments that need to happen. It's a process of coming into alignment within themselves that is a prelude to being able to kind of like realign this situation. But at this point in time, it's almost like they can't really give you the kind of love that you're needing. They can't match that frequency for the long term of what you're giving out. It's something that's it's embers. It's a spark. They're unable to kind of sustain that roaring blaze between the two of you at the present time. They also say twin flame. So that definitely fits with this energy right here of a lot of triggering, a lot of shadow work, dealing with this person, may even been something that is highlighted within you, a lot of kind of unconscious woundings, especially if you've been going back and forth with this person for a while, a sense of, even for some of you, like, I can fix them, my love will heal them. Also that idea of being the way shower, only feeling maybe that you needed to continue to participate or just keep an open door policy for this person because they're your twin flame, because you love them, because you feel so much compassion for them. And it's almost like a sense where it may have been a lot of overgiving up to this point in time. And it's a lesson here in love of self, first and foremost, learning to fill one's own cup and exercising that degree of self-love by setting healthy boundaries, creating that space, checking in with self and saying, does this feel good? Does this, match and kind of reciprocate the vibration that I'm putting forth? Or is this something that makes me question that, it's a lot of damage control that's needing to be done? Is there a lot of negativity and darkness that's needing to be transmuted through dealing with this person? Even from afar, it's all of these questions. It's that journey within that is very much triggered on both parts in this situation. So this is the idea of like through separate journeys, you may actually be walking a parallel path. That union could be possible further down the road, but in this present energy right here, it almost feels like space is really necessary. If you already have space, continued space, or setting more firm kind of like energetic boundaries, you detaching from your expectations, or trying to kind of like manifest this person back in, might be the most beneficial for this situation right now. They need some time to kind of sit within themselves and become that light within their own darkness. This I Need Time card also came out in group 1. So if you were drawn to watch that group, you may want to do so after this one. There could be additional messages there for you. And they also say friends or family disapprove of this connection. So this card came out in group 2. Again, if you felt drawn to watch that, there could be additional messages there for you. But it is this idea of like meddling forces. This can tie into like toxic people that they have in their life. And they're sort of like the interactions with you, the way in which, a lighter part of this person has really come to the surface. There started to be a transformation in their dealings with you, and then going back into their ordinary world after spending time with you. At the end of the day, the end of the conversation, whatever, people that are in their reality, kind of people that resonate with this darkness within them, may have been very threatened and very triggered by the positive changes that were starting to occur in them. There may have been a lot of sort of like naysayers, puppet masters, meddlers, interference in a variety of ways to try and separate the two of you, create boundaries, sow seeds of doubt within this person, make them really sort of question the positive changes, the light within them that was starting to activate and come back to life. And it feels like something where this toxicity in the form of other people and circumstances is so familiar to them that they almost have chosen that, or are choosing that, over the possibility for growth and for something else, for this like angelic energy, this high vibration, this light energy that you, and even what is, perhaps created during the good times between the two of you, what that provides and offers. They also say you are always on my mind. So another card from group 2 there. Felt drawn to watch that one after this. It definitely feels to be something where, despite kind of what happens, the outbursts, the, sort of the narcissistic tendencies that are demonstrated in this circumstance and situation, it's something that doesn't feel good to this person. They don't feel to be a full-blown narcissist because they have the ability to self-reflect. That's a key ingredient that sets somebody apart from individuals who just lack empathy altogether. That this person is, again, like a wounded animal. They're acting out from a place of hurt within themselves, and in the aftermath of that, whatever it is that you say, any kind of tears that they have made you cry, any kind of distance or wedge that has been driven in between the two of you through their actions, through other people, it's something that they're thinking about all of this. They're very consciously aware of all of that. It doesn't feel good, but it almost continues to feed that wounded part of them, where they don't know how to ask for help. They don't know how to ask for a way out. They don't know what to do to dig themselves out of this pattern within. And it's something where all they can really do is just think, just kind of wish, wonder, hope, kind of send you these SOS signals from afar, telepathically speaking, to where they're now at the point of utilizing the tools that they have at their disposal, which is kind of like chaos and destruction and darkness in a lot of ways, which is what's sort of happening within them, and maybe even kind of in their toxic environment, other connections they're in, other relationships, dynamics with family, social circles, friends, addictions, whatever that looks like, but there's a part of themselves inside that is kind of like crying out for help. They're seeing you as a doorway to a different way. You represent something else, a part of them that has not seen the light of day for quite some time, a part of themselves they had almost thought had sort of like withered away, or would not be able to be brought to the surface or seen or appreciated by anyone or anyone again, just, whatever the case may be. And so there's a yearning for something more, but it's almost the way in which they feel to be kind of going about it or planning to go about it is, again, using these tools of kind of destructive energies to elicit some kind of reaction from you, where you block them, you ghost them, you close the door, you set up those personal boundaries and sort of cut this situation off. And from that place, this little strategy that they've come up with in their mind, using these tools of kind of negativity that they hold within, there is this intention of kind of like taking note of that, really sitting with that, digesting that, and hopefully kind of being on the receiving end of a fearless act of self-love on your part. They're hoping that it will provide them some kind of insight or inspiration as far as how to step more into that vibration for themselves. By you helping yourself, it's like this person is almost hoping that it will inspire them or sort of show them the way, in a sense, for how they can help themselves similarly as well. So I'm going to get some guidance from Spirit for you, and then I'll get some initials. Okay, and we have She of the Mossy Bray. Not all things are as they seem. Trust in your intuition. So this is bringing to mind with this little kind of bird here, above this sort of troll's head, that it's like a little plan that they have hatched, in a sense of sort of showing you the worst of the worst within them, in the hopes that you will run away in the other direction, and then they can kind of like follow you energetically, follow your lead in some particular way, that'll be how you can show them the way out of this darkness. So that might be something that's, again, this kind of intuition, not that you should have any kind of different reaction within yourself to whatever this is than you already are intuitively guided towards. But it is tying into the idea of not all things are as they seem, like looking a little bit beneath the surface. Don't be so quick to just sort of write this person off as, oh, they're a narcissist. So glad I got away from that. For some people, yeah, that's the case. And you're really going to have to trust that intuition, find that exit, create that door for yourself, close it, and don't look back, and really just say, I'm glad I got away from that situation. They were a narcissist. Pick up the pieces, rebuild, become wiser, work towards your own abundance, do better moving forward. For others of you, though, it's almost just, this is a very broken, wounded person, and all they have to really bring to the table at this point is broken pieces, shards. And so, kind of looking beneath, giving them a bit of the benefit of the doubt, seeing the situation from a wider angle, not course correcting from what you're drawn to do, but with the understanding that they're taking a cue, they're taking a note. You are the lead in this situation. You're the trailblazer, and so use that in a sense from your most kind of like compassionate self, not with the intention of, okay, well, if I heal me, then they'll be inspired and they will heal them and it'll all be happily ever after. No, this is doing work for yourself first and foremost, but understanding that on some level, the work that you do, when you do that, in earnest, you dedicate yourself to that, to really cultivating the sense of abundance, continuing to shine that light brightly, becoming that light in your own darkness, choosing yourself over situations that kind of make you feel very tense, very dissonant, very confused, or very attacked. That it's something, for a lot of you, this person is going to take a cue from you. They're going to follow behind. They're going to kind of like look and analyze and feel into, even vibrationally, what you've done, and that this is going to be an important step for them to start to clean up some of this debris in their own life. This may be something that, like, further down the road, it could be possible for the two of you to sort of reintroduce, maybe open that door to something again, perhaps friendship, perhaps something more. But at this point in time, it definitely feels, for those of you that are really resonating with this is kind of the indicator of roads diverging, that all they can really give at this point in time is kind of what they hold a lot of inside, which is places that need to be healed. It's an independent journey. It's a solo journey at this point. So kind of like looking even beyond the appearance of the wounding and the hurt that you've experienced in this situation. This is a lesson for you on how to love yourself more, the importance of that, the importance of following that heart intuition, of really holding fast to a sense of that you are worthy and deserving of healthy and reciprocal love, rather than, kind of dealings and interactions with people that create disharmony within you, where you're left to transmute a lot of their darkness, their garbage that's kind of dumped onto you. As much as it may even feel like a soul connection, twin flame bond, that is never an excuse to, compromise your own integrity, the integrity of your own emotions and your wellness and your well-being. So this might be kind of like tough lesson, when to cut the cord in a certain way. But in this process, it leads to so much profound growth, both in the lesson that you've demonstrated for this person and the way in which you've taken your power back and are making the choice to move toward personal sovereignty, that it opens a myriad of doors for you can't necessarily see or anticipate yet. That it's almost kind of a blessing in disguise, as this door potentially closes or needs to be closed by you. In the long-term sense, it's like you have exercised an act of fearless self-love that might be very new for you, and the wave that brings in, the abundance that carries you towards in other ways, the ripple effect of that, it's multifold compared to just extracting yourself from this situation or needing to set up boundaries with this person. So trusting in that kind of a bigger plan of what's unfolding here, especially if it's a twin flame dynamic, separation, continued separation, somebody sort of cutting the cord, pulling the plug on the situation consciously at some point in time is very necessary. It's a journey of internal personal growth, balance within, harmony within, first and foremost, to be able to fearlessly and unconditionally give that love to self first and foremost, in order to be able to most adequately and in a healthy manner ripple that out and reciprocate that with another person in kind. So trusting in the nature of this, some kind of a turn or a step out into the unknown territory that you are guided to make. If your intuition tells you this doesn't feel good, this is something which is just kind of like hurting me, it's dimming my shine, it's not resonating with what I know at an intuitive soul level real love should feel like, should look like, and should be experienced as, then that's the best judge in this situation. Labels aside, a sense of duty and obligation aside, this really feels to be a situation where you're encouraged to choose yourself first. And hopefully this person then follows that example and starts to do that healing work within. But ultimately, when you choose yourself in your own kind of state of balance and wellness, first and foremost, you can't go wrong. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we've got Y, A, G, F, K, C, R, D, P, W, Z, T, R, E, Q, and O. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of readings about subjects other than love and romance, such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.